Hello and welcome to Good or Bad. When I was a kid, I would end up watching the same movie every Christmas. I don't know whether it's because it was actually on TV or someone had it on VHS or whatever, but point is, every year, around Christmas, I would end up watching Jingle All the Way. Now I understand that this movie is generally not well received, but my god, this was the movie I watched every year? Was it really that bad? I mean, I can barely remember it, so this year I'm on a mission, a Christmas mission, to find out what I really think of this movie. Jingle All the Way was released in 1996 and was directed by Brian Levant. This movie stars Arnold Schwarzenegger as a hopeless but loving father, who, like every other father in every other family comedy movie ever made, spends too much time at work and not enough with his family. I wonder whether the message at the end of this movie will be that spending time with your family is the most important part of Christmas. The movie begins with a corny 90s TV show themed intro, which turns out to be an advert on TV, being watched by our main character's son, Jamie. He is played by Jake Lloyd, and in typical fashion with these kinds of movies, he has an event coming up which is really important to him.
I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it.
Yeah, he doesn't make it. But to make it up to his son, who is royally pissed off with him, he offers to buy him whatever he wants for Christmas. Which is a great parenting lesson? So what is it that Jamie wants more than anything in the world? Which is the ultimate toy of his favourite superhero. Turbo Man, not Captain America. He is only good enough to be plastered all over his bedroom wall. You would think that a kid this obsessed with a superhero would have his favourite up on the wall, but then again I suppose the people who made the movie couldn't find any wallpaper of their made-up superhero. His wife Liz asks him whether he has picked up the toy. She is played by Rita Wilson, but of course Howard never got one because, well, then there would be no movie. But he lies through his teeth to her.
Good, because at this point they'd probably be impossible to find.
Yeah, this movie is very cartoonish. Following morning, Howard goes to get his Turbo Man toy, right after he gets snarled at by a reindeer. Well, it's not Christmas until he gets snarled at by a reindeer. While Howard is waiting for the store doors to open, he meets his crazy rival Myron, who is played by Sinbad. But when the store doors open, we see what is probably the most memorable imagery in the entire movie. Can you imagine if there was a real business that let their customers get away with trashing the place? And what it'd be like to be one of the idiots that works there? Horrible, I think. Very, very horrible. And naturally, as Howard searches high and low, he sees no Turbo Man in sight. That is, until he hears that a woman has just bought the last doll, so he tries to chase her down.
Wait, lady! I need the Turbo Man!
Just exactly how did you think that was going to go? Tasting bitter failure, Howard calls home, where he finds out his neighbour Ted, played by Phil Hartman, is round having orgasms over the phone while eating cookies.
Oh, Howard, excuse me, but your wife's cookies are out of this world.
Who told you can eat my cookies?
Did somebody just really want to make Arnold say that? Although it has nothing on his next line.
Put that cookie down! Now!
Blows his famous "I'll be back" line right out of the water, in my opinion. Given how small the world is, he bumps into Myron again, who wants to team up to find Turbo Man, but he turns him down. And this scene doesn't change anything, because think about it, even if they did work together, they're after the same thing. What if they only found one of them? Would they get their kids to share it?
We got late delivery of Turbo Man at Toy Works! Let's go! Turbo Man! Turbo Man!
So the hunt is back on, but instead of using a first-come, first-served system, like every shop in the world does, they use a ball-based system.
These balls will then be drawn in a standard lottery fashion to see who gets a doll.
Seems like a needlessly time-consuming system, but hey, if they hadn't have done that, they wouldn't have been able to make Arnold Schwarzenegger say this.
Hi, little girl. Look what I've got for you. A shiny red ball.
I don't know why they wanted to make him say this exactly, but they did. Okay, to fill in some blanks for you. While they were handing the lottery balls out, they went everywhere, and Howard had to chase one all over the place, leading to the ball pit, where this kid picked it up. But because he was too busy being beaten up by handbags, he didn't manage to get it. Also, where the hell is the security in, like, any place in this movie? As one thing leads to another, he encounters a shady Santa Claus. who seems to be stealing these valuable toys just before Christmas to sell them to the desperate morons who leave everything to the last minute. Well, he seems friendlier than the last reindeer. And as you would expect, when he buys this doll from the most festive, illegitimate market you could possibly imagine, it turns out to be a fake. But they won't give him his $300 back. Wow, he was desperate, wasn't he? So he insults them, and them being the hardened 90s thugs that they are, they respond appropriately. Remember earlier when I said this movie is like a cartoon at times? Well, this is one of them. You know, I never thought I'd say it, but this movie makes the gingerbread fight scene in Krampus look sane. Chaos continues, including a scene where the wrestler Paul the Giant White punches one of Santa's little helpers across the warehouse. But then the police bust in, as they have been closing in on these con men for a while, so Howard is going to have to be pretty smart to talk his way out of this one.
Hey! Hey, buddy! Detective Howard Lang, undercover. I have been working on this case for the last 3 years, and you guys come barging in here like a bunch of terrorists at a tea party.
So it's not that Howard was clever, but instead that the cops were beyond incompetent.
Now get your act together and arrest someone. Go! Yes, sir!
I think even Chief Wiggum would have seen through that. The movie hits that halfway point, you know the one, where the slow and somber music starts, and the bad look our main character has faced really starts to sink in. So he goes to cheer himself up by talking to his wife on the phone, presumably to tell her that he hasn't managed to get the doll, so it's less of a cheer up call and more of a confession. But in any case, it's his son that answers the phone, and one thing leads to another, and he ends up shouting at his son in the least emotionally expressive way possible.
If there's anyone I don't want to have advice from right now, it's Turbo Man. Now, get your mother.
That's some classic Arnold Schwarzenegger acting right there. And now he feels worse than ever, which is when he bumps into Myron again. And as they drown their sorrows together, they hear a voice on the radio saying whoever can call in and answer a question correctly will get a Turbo Man doll. Yeah, as you may expect, it doesn't work out, but they do end up at the radio station, where the police arrive and Myron pretends he has a bomb. You see, Myron works for a mailing company, and he claims that some of them are bombs that they find, and he put one aside for a rainy day. And while the police do back off, Myron thought the bomb was a fake. I wonder, are we going to see a realistic scene of bits of dead bodies everywhere, or a cartoonish display? Of course, after seeing that his car has been stripped by hooligans, he returns home with a look of defeat on his face, which is when he sees Ted continuing his attempts to get into his wife's pants. So he immediately seeks vengeance. He remembers that Ted had bought a Turbo Man doll for his son, so he breaks in to steal it.
I'll show him.
Don't you just love the materialistic view this movie has on Christmas? But Howard can't quite go through with it. However, when he goes to put the present back, he encounters Ted's angry pet reindeer again. Why does Ted have a pet reindeer? Come on, movie, give me a reason. A reason that isn't just so you could have Arnold Schwarzenegger punch out a reindeer. Yeah, okay, that was worth it. Liz isn't very happy with her husband, and sounds like she is on the verge of leaving him. I mean, to be fair, he does look completely insane right now. While he gets the reindeer drunk, Howard's family head off to the annual Christmas Eve parade, where Turbo Man is set to appear. And in spite of the fact that Howard just sucks at life, he is heading to the parade, because all throughout the movie, he has been promising he will be there. When he arrives, he runs afoul of the police officer that he has accidentally been victimising all throughout this movie, which causes him to take refuge in a nearby building. Meanwhile, we get a display of comedic brilliance. Your wisdom in comedy overwhelms me. The building Howard is hiding out in just so happens to be the place where they are getting the Turbo Man actor ready for the show. But because the real actor is running late, they think Howard is the actor. And because he can't get a word in edgeways, he ends up being the star of the show, where he gets to pick a child in the parade to receive a Turbo Man doll. I do wonder who he will pick.
Jamie!
You could have just said the boy in the green hat instead of making it look rigged, as everything is working out pretty much the best way it could possibly work out. Myron strikes again, this time dressed as Turbo Man's arch nemesis. He knocked out the guy who was supposed to play Dementor.
That's little man.
Wow. I never thought I'd say this, but he makes a worse supervillain than even Arnold Schwarzenegger did. And then an actual fight breaks out that is right out of a cheesy, corny 90s superhero TV show, complete with jetpacks. Yeah, this is where the movie goes balls to the wall insane, as they risk life and limb for this stupid toy.
You're taking this too far.
But I digress. They do manage to beat Myron, who then gets carted off by the police. But not before Jamie gives the Turbo Man doll to him so he can give it to his kid for Christmas. Well, isn't this lovely? Goodwill to all men, even ones that almost got you killed. And it takes them a ridiculous amount of time to figure out it's Howard, to the point where they didn't actually figure it out. He had to take the helmet off. But anyway, his kid loves him now, as he is literally his favourite hero. So the message of the movie wasn't about family togetherness over materialistic gain at all. It was that if you want your kid to love you, you have to buy them the best toy in the market, or become their favourite superhero. Yeah, Merry Christmas to you too, movie. And despite the many, many crimes this man has committed throughout this film, he gets a happy ending that, frankly, he didn't really deserve. Because he is a bad parent. I mean, yes, okay, he did risk his life at the end of the movie to save his son, but beyond that, all he could see was that in order to make his child happy, he had to buy him a nice toy. Which is fine, as long as by the end of the movie the character realises that that isn't what family or Christmas is about. And he never learns this. True, Jamie did give up the doll to make another child's Christmas, so the kid learnt the lesson, but our main character didn't. Which makes this movie feel void of the message that it feels like it's trying to tell you. But that aside, how was the movie? Silly, dumb, and hilarious. I can't call this movie good, I really can't, but it's still enjoyable. But that being said, I do generally like dumb Schwarzenegger movies because I find him too goofy not to enjoy. The supporting cast were okay, but I do wish Ted got a bigger comeuppance than eggnog in the face. So acting wise, it was only really Schwarzenegger that keeps you entertained. Because even though Myron had a few funny moments, most of the time he was just okay. Not annoying, but not funny. Just harmlessly present. I liked Ted though. He is, what's the right word here? Schmarmy? He's that twat in the movie that you just want to see get punched in the face. And Jake Lloyd as Jamie was whiny a lot throughout this movie. But to be fair, that was how he was written. Although I do think it would have been better if he was less confrontational with his issues and more quietly disappointed. Because then it would have come across that he has just accepted that his father is a letdown. So it would have felt more natural that Howard was so dead set on making his son's Christmas perfect by getting him the right gift. So combine this with what I said earlier about it not really being about getting the right toy, but instead just being there for your loved ones, and you would have a much better Christmas movie. But story isn't the only thing you have to get right. You need to get the Christmassy vibe right as well. And this movie definitely offers a huge Christmassy feeling, with its various different choices in music, and of course the visuals. I mean, this movie has a warehouse full of Santas and elves. So overall, I just have to say, yes, I can see why this movie got those scores, but at the same time, I still think this movie is enjoyable, even if it is enjoyably stupid. You have been watching Good or Bad, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas. See you next time.